So I see we are live right now, and today we've got on the show Dash MacIntyre of the Halfway Cafe, who writes some very terrific Dadaist satire. If you haven't discovered him yet, and if you want to briefly introduce yourself at all or anything you've been working on, Dash, feel free to go ahead.
Yeah, I write a lot of comedy. So on Substack, it's the Halfway Cafe, but I've been writing the Halfway Post for a long time, like 8 years now. Kind of wild. It keeps me sane during the Trump presidency, and especially right
Yeah.
now. Had a lot of commentary this last week thanks to the elections, which went pretty overwhelmingly the way I was hoping they would go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Little bit of a repudiation on some of the chaos and the trade war like issues and drama that has been. Uh, Maybe making American politics a less stable place.
Yeah, it's nice to
That's
see
true.
the right wing get a real rebuke with this past election. If this one didn't go over well, my hopes for the midterms weren't terribly high, but it seems like democracy has persevered to the
Yeah.
point where some legitimate elections are still taking place. I'd been pretty concerned about that New York one and my own state. We retained all of our judges, and
Oh, yeah,
even while I wouldn't have known what that meant a year ago, I'm glad that it happened.
yeah. No, it was nice. Democrats won huge. I mean, the numbers are insane too. Like, when
Yeah.
Glenn Youngkin won the governor in 2021, he won by 2%, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's the next Republican president nominee." But the Democrat, the other, just a couple of days ago, won by like 15 points. So like massive swing.
Mhm.
And especially in Virginia, they flipped 13 like state legislature seats, I think. So they came close to a supermajority, which Virginia was kind of turning a little more pink and purple in the last couple elections, but now it's like solidly blue.
Yeah. It's been a little frustrating to see the media response to all this because a lot of what you're saying is kind of being buried by the media, like because it was a bloodbath. The blue really dominated, and people are already saying it's like, well, the midterms probably aren't going to be as easy for Democrats. Somebody, I think it was the opinionated ogre, pointed out that headline. So it's just sort of like we got to keep up with the messaging. So that's what we're going to continue to do. And I applaud all the efforts you're making over there on your page, Dash.
Thanks. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of serious commentary lately. Things are going a little crazy, so I haven't had as many things to like make jokes about because it's hard to make jokes about like the forced, like horrific deportations and just like the executive tyrannical overreach of a overbearing, some would argue, wannabe dictator. But do you think Republicans will react to this in any way? Do you think Republicans will maybe start breaking with Trump a little bit? I'm actually writing a big piece on this, how Trump's like a pretty big lame duck right now. And then, Trump's excuses, I wasn't on the ballot, so he lost because my name wasn't on the ballot. But it's like, you're not going to be on the ballot ever again.
Right.
You can't run any more presidential terms. The midterms, you're not going to be on the ballot anywhere. So we'll see if they react to like this repudiation.
Well, I think what you said is really important because it's up to us now to emphasize that there's a real sign that we're going to win back the government here in a year. So they better stop their lawless behavior. And I keep telling people, just keep saying Nuremberg defense, Nuremberg, because it's all those people down the line committing these illegal acts. And so we just emphasize, you guys are going to be held accountable. You guys covering up your face and doing these horrible things, you're going to be held accountable. So even if the politicians don't do anything different, if we can get people more reluctant to follow illegal orders, it's going to be a huge win for us. So we really do have to capitalize on this. This is the time of independent journalism. If there ever has been in the last 50 years, it's now.
And I'm excited for Democrats to kind of like get their mojo back a little bit. I mean, it's been a long wilderness year of like Democrats just eating shit and like feeling demoralized. But, like it's nice to, like definitely this. And I think it's a great lesson for Democrats. Like everyone wants to come up with like, oh, Mamdani won in New York City. We need like hardcore progressives. But then it's like, in Virginia and New Jersey, we had like relatively moderate normie Democrats win. And I think the lesson is not to go like all progressive or all normie and moderate. It's like, let's pick the candidates that are appropriate for their communities and pick the people who will win. And I wrote about this like Wednesday morning that just like, like I think the lesson here is that Democrats need candidates from their local communities who can win. And so like no more litmus tests. Like we got to have Democrats that are maybe pro-life, maybe pro-gun. They're not, they'll vote and agree with Democrats on 90% of the stuff. But the difference between Democrats, getting totally fucked over in the election and losing because everyone thinks they're preachy with these litmus tests of all these opinions you have to have or you're worse than Hitler. Like, it's a good example of just like we just need a big tent and Democratic candidates of all kinds of ideologies and beliefs and morals. And then, I wrote about this in the piece that, like everyone was shitting on Joe Manchin for being such a centrist Democrat. But like, I wish we had 100 Joe Manchins right now because then we'd have a majority in one of the two chambers of Congress and we could do the, like investigation and holding the Trump administration accountable for everything they're doing, having some power of the gavel, having committees going in and searching like all the corruption and everything. And it's like, I want Democrats to have the majority however they get there, even if every candidate in like rural Arkansas or something doesn't agree with every one of my opinions, extremely liberal, big city kind of Democratic opinions.
Ben, I want to give you a chance to respond too.
Going back to the midterm point, there's a small part of me that kind of wants Trump to announce that he's running again, just because I think that would be a real dam break moment for a lot of people, where all those who are having trouble admitting that what we're living through is fascism would say, "Hey, one thing I really know about this country is that presidents do not get third terms," and I don't think there's anything that he's done yet that would seem like such a blatant violation as him just saying, fuck term limits. I'm going to run again. And because we're such a short-term memory country, I think that if he did that before midterms, it would really inspire a lot of Democrats to vote like their life depended on it. So while I definitely do not want another 4, 8, or 16 years of Trump, I think that it wouldn't serve him well if he did run.
Yeah, somebody
I'd
just
like to see
commented
more.
put Obama in 2028.
Yeah.
Which, I'm all for that. Hey, if Trump's going to run again, let's get Obama, who's maybe like the most likable, popular candidate, especially now when like our politics are so partisan. But I mean, you see videos of Obama at like, basketball games and just like standing ovations. I don't think any
No.
other candidate, any of either party would, have the kind of cred that Obama has and,
No. Yeah.
troll back, I guess.
Well, I'd like to see Michelle on the ticket, honestly, but I think like that affordability message that plays everywhere, and that's one of the things I think is kind of strange because it's like we got to get over this resistance. Like the center Democrats who refused to endorse Mamdani after he won the primary, that to me that's horrible. I mean, we can't sit there and be like, well, it's okay that a guy who lost the primary, Cuomo, then got into the race, because that's just plain sabotage. So we have to be unified on just our basic rules, and we have to respect our primaries. And the people are just like, if the message is affordability, that will run everywhere. And there's places in the deep red South that our centrist Democrats don't even run candidates. So either I'm really kind of liking the idea. I hope somebody like gets behind like a third party to run some progressive candidates in these red districts, because I honestly believe the red or the progressive policies are the most likely to win in red states. Just because it's like, hey, we need healthcare, we need we need to be able to pay for food, and I think if nothing else, just having candidates in those places and some representation would be a big change. But it is hard. This whole tangle of what's going on in our politics and where the funding is coming from, and it feels like such a big mess. And it's even more coming to light with all these other things that are coming out and the reactions we're seeing in the media. So, well, I still don't know what's going to happen a year from now. We've been saying this for a year. I have no idea what's going to happen. But
Yeah.
as long as we keep talking, at least we're doing something.
It's nice that we don't need to be in a total state of wallowing right now. It might not fully meet the
Yeah.
escapist criteria, but nor is it just being dismal about the state of affairs, which is pretty much the opposite of escaping.
What it's been, yeah. Well, we got to celebrate the little wins when they happen,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would hate to not even address the win, because it really is exciting, and it shows that
Oh,
our
it's big.
democracy might have a fighting chance after all.
Yeah, for real. And I guess you guys can't
Let's
really have me on without politics coming up at least a little bit.
Right.
Oh, it's impossible to avoid politics. It's just
Yeah,
impossible,
right.
and it's just important to talk about it. It is, as long as we're kind of laughing about it and keeping it light. But we got to
Yeah,
keep
cuts.
going. We got to be positive.
Yeah. Cut to a year from now when Democrats lose again. Trump gets they do a constitutional amendment to let Trump run for the rest of his life or something, or just hand power right to like Donald Trump Jr. or something, as we're
Oh,
eating eating
yeah.
shit in concentration camps a year from now.
Oh, you're giving me a headache.
When Home Alone 2 cameos are leading the country, politics and entertainment are intertwined, and
Yeah.
you just can't escape it.
Well, that's an interesting thought. Do you guys think what do you think about like how much politics does like intersect into culture, and that like nowadays like you get these actors that like just have these PR people where they're just like completely apolitical, and then like all the Democrats shit on them because it's like, oh, all this stuff going on and you have no opinion about what's going on. But not that like, I think Republicans especially are like really pissed at like Hollywood always injecting their opinions, and I don't know
Uh-huh.
how effective it is for Democrats to just have a bunch of like limousine liberals out there having big, self-congratulatory parades for how morally pure they are or something. But like, like when you watch movies and TV shows, it's like, you just can't, yeah, especially things like Andor. We talked about, I think the last time I was on you guys' show,
Mhm.
like, I mean, what is more politically relevant than everything that just happened in that last
Yeah.
season of Andor with like the Empire, taking just brutal power and like the resistance kind of rising up into the rebellion of the movies or whatever later. I mean, it certainly resonated with me watching it.
Well, we did talk about how, like, during George W. Bush's presidency, we had movies like The Patriot, and then during Obama,
Yeah.
you have like 12 Years a Slave during the Obama administration. So it's
Hmm.
like radically different. And like, because The
Yeah.
Patriot is
Yeah.
basically just propaganda. Like, it's just like you couldn't come up with anything more ridiculous than The Patriot. It gets
Yeah.
absolutely everything wrong, and it's like, well, I guess so. Yeah, it's inevitable. The administration
Yeah.
would influence our creative minds, and it determines where the money goes, which
Yeah.
is a good time to say, please, everybody, support our our newsletters because
Shameless
we got to
plug.
be the voice of the resistance. Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
has to be a shameless plug.
It's funny sometimes going back to those immediate post 9/11 years and seeing just how steeped in the terrorism paranoia all of these
Yeah.
movies and shows are, and they're
Yeah.
yeah, the vocabulary is just totally centered around it in so many of these
Yeah.
cases.
Yesterday was the anniversary of November 5th, V for Vendetta. I remember when that movie came out, like
Mm.
kind of in the thick of
Oh,
the,
yeah.
first George W. Bush term or whatever. Like that movie, that was powerful when I first saw that. And man, it definitely struck a chord in the national conversation kind of.
Absolutely. What a great movie that is too.
Yeah, I
That's
need to
what
watch that
yeah,
again. It's been years, but I like that movie. That might be one of the most like impactful movies like I've ever seen. And granted, like it was like my formative years, and like I was hardcore into like the Daily Show and like very much against George W. Bush. Back when I was in middle school and high school, so definitely resonated with me.
I know they do the alliteration scene. They did that in my daughter's English
Yeah,
class. Well, this is what alliteration is, and he speaks with the letter V for like
yeah,
7 minutes.
right.
Mm, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's V for Vendetta was a really classic 2000s action movie. Or is it more of a thriller? But I really enjoyed that one, and I've gone back and revisited it a couple of times, and it.
I actually just recently watched a Netflix version. I think it was like French or something, but the Count of Monte Cristo, which of course V for
No.
Vendetta is like heavily indebted to. But it was kind of interesting. I read the book like twice actually, like the unabridged version, like when I was in high school. I think I've read it twice in my life. It's like 16 or 1400 pages or something. But
Oh wow.
I love this story. It's like I would read it with a smile on my face because I mean it's kind of relatable. Like just this guy going like hardcore, getting revenge against all his enemies and stuff. Not that I have many enemies, but it was certainly entertaining. Like living vicariously through this guy who just like so completely ruins the lives of the people who like fucked his life over.
Yeah.
That version with Jim Caviezel and Guy Pearce, even though Jim Caviezel kind of went off the deep end in real life, he's had some pretty unfortunate clips. But that version of the Count of Monte Cristo, I revisit that one every now and then. But yeah, just such a classic revenge story. And that's Alexander Dumas. I mean,
Yeah,
and then it's come up more because people didn't know that he is black ancestry.
yeah,
Alexander Dumas is, and that I didn't know that until they mentioned it in the Tarantino movie. Which one was that? Django. Um, so it's just like the whitewashing of our history again is just kind of engaged. And so it's like even though the Count of Monte Cristo has been a film and a book that we've known all these years, that aspect of it has always been hidden. And so, yeah, it's like I was thinking too when we're talking about how our administrations influence our literature. I mean, there's the Hays Code, a great example of just blatant government censorship of film. So that exists too. But that's a multifaceted kind of topic there. That's a big one. So I'm glad
Yeah,
you
yeah,
brought that up.
It's
yeah.
it's always funny looking back on the Bush administration and thinking just how serious my dad especially considered that point in time, and he earnestly did think that it would deteriorate to the point where we needed to hide in an attic or something as Bush's minions were going door to door and taking people out of their houses, and it's been so interesting and scary to see an actual threat sweep over the country. He used to speak a lot about the Nixon administration and how, oh Ben, you can't imagine what it was like to grow up through this and to each day see some crazy new breaking news development on the TV.
Yeah.
And as soon as Trump took office, he's like, Ben, this is a lot crazier than Nixon.
Well, even with Dick Cheney dying, like what I would give to let Dick Cheney be president instead of
Right,
Trump.
right.
Like I would take
Yeah.
that trade without a second like afterthought. Like I would totally make that trade. And like obviously Dick Cheney, people thought he was like Satan incarnate,
Yeah.
but like, man, like just how times changed. But like you go back to like 2004, he was like unusually like pro states' rights on gay issues. And, obviously that's a case of like typical with Republicans, like when an issue directly affects their personal life, they miraculously come around to the liberal perspective on it,
Yeah.
which is just, always a interesting thing to note. But, but obviously his legacy can't erase like everything. He had a whole bunch of jobs in the government for like presidents way before George W. Bush, but like obviously his legacy is just like Iraq and just
Yeah.
it's just that
Well,
debacle that killed so many people and just totally like upset like 2 decades of American like growth and like all the money we spent doing that, all the people who died. Like so. Rest in peace, Dick Cheney, wherever you are, up or down, right?
yeah, or it's down. I think
Down.
I think
Probably.
somebody like him though is just better at hiding his corruption because like the guy in charge now is
Yeah.
Yeah.
just his dementia, and he'll just come on TV and just tell like illegal acts or like I pardoned a bunch of people. I don't know who the hell they are.
Yeah.
It's like, and then our media just lets
Yeah.
him off the hook. I think
Yeah.
Cheney was more conniving, so maybe he's more dangerous, like Cheney, because the guy we have, like even everybody could be like this. This is like the definition of corruption. What we
Yeah.
have now.
Yeah.
What
But
I
part of
would
what I'm
give for some backroom corruption, instead of just coming
At
out on
least we have the
TV and just
courtesy to hide it. Yeah, instead of
yeah,
shoving it in our face. What are you
right,
gonna do about it? Yeah.
It's funny how many Democrats suddenly became pro Liz Cheney for just doing the bare fucking
yeah,
minimum.
total bare
Yeah.
minimum.
Yeah. Well, I think she might have torpedoed the thing deliberately. I don't trust any of them for what they're doing. I was talking about with Arturo Dominguez about that the other day, and you got all these guys that have like changed. It's like, oh, I'm a repentant Republican. Give me all your donation money. Give me all your donation money. It's sort of like you guys are just cashing in, like Kinzinger, who voted against the Voting Rights Act, and now he's like, oh, it's like, you're not on our side if you're not for like stopping voter suppression.
Yeah.
So I get on.
Hey,
give it to somebody.
we got to take the friends and allies wherever we can get them. I think these days,
Well, that's secret. But if they're doing like secret sabotage, but yeah, you're right though. You're right. As long as we get to like people stop knocking doors down and zip tying children's hands together. Once we get there, I'll do a little dance, and then we'll continue the work. Yeah.
So speaking of the mid 2000s, have either of you guys seen Dexter?
I recently
haven't.
watched like part of season 1, like a lot of season 1. You got any thoughts on it?
It's very steeped in post 9/11 American culture in a lot of ways. It's very pro police, even while you can't help but root for the vigilante killer protagonist.
Yeah.
But that's a show that has a really interesting and convoluted history now that it's gotten 3 separate spin-offs. I'm not sure if a lot of people realize that, but it had season 1 to 8, which notoriously had one of the worst finales of all time at the end of that. And 10 years later, they come out with Dexter New Blood, which is just a slap in the face to fans because they take a bad ending and make it even fucking worse. And then a few more years go by, and they introduce a flashback show with Dexter and Patrick Gibson playing his younger incarnation. And finally, they continue the story after Dexter New Blood, and he's still alive. Survived the bit of a spoiler here. Survived the fatal gunshot wound that killed him, and I think so much of the mystique of Dexter is that he's just unkillable, and it's kind of fun to see him back in action again. It's a well done show. Peter Dinklage, Kristen Ritter, really surprising cast. I think they had Neil Patrick Harris even in it. If I'm
No,
correct
really?
about that. Yeah, it was a
What's Neil? Has Neil Patrick Harris been doing much else? Like he was kind of everywhere for a while, like several years ago, but now I don't really see him much. But he was like in all kinds of like YouTube short
yeah.
videos and like all the like a
Yeah.
lot of like series, and obviously How I Met Your Mother. He was
Well, and
solid in
Harold
that.
and Kumar go to White
There's no,
Castle.
I was gonna say
He
Harold and
stole the
Kumar.
show in that one. That's worth watching
Yeah.
just for him.
Yeah, there's no
Yeah.
topping his roles in Harold and Kumar. It just gets better in each of the movies. Like he's in all three of the movies. It just doesn't need to be at all. But yeah, his
Yeah.
cameo is just terrific.
No, that's perfect. No, other
But
than that, he was hosting the Oscars or something recently. I remember that. But you're right, he's kind of dropped off. Maybe he's just he was in the Smurfs too, wasn't he?
Oh yeah. I think he's got kids now, so maybe he's just like a
Yeah.
family dude. So
No more Harold and Kumar roles then if he's got kids. That's
yeah,
I've,
yeah
I've
maybe yeah.
I've heard whispers about a Harold and Kumar 4, and I'm personally praying that we see it. I think it'll help continue lifting our spirits.
yeah. Oh, more comedies. Yeah, what's what we need. The kids threw in K-pop again. We've been watching nothing but K-pop Demon Hunters, so that's
Oh yeah, is that good? Do you recommend it?
oh yeah, it's really good. The music, I mean, what's interesting is the music is on the radio now. There's like
Yeah.
4 songs that are legitimately hit songs from this movie, and it is. It's really good. It's good if you got kids, but you know, anybody can watch it.
It's kind of interesting how historic it's been. It's very rare, if not completely unprecedented, for a movie to get so much attention on Netflix that it ends up getting its own theatrical release and
Yeah.
Yeah,
takes over the radio. And I enjoyed
it's
it
like
way
the
more than I expected to. I've said it before, but that name had me immediately put off. And then I'm like 20, 30 minutes into it. I'm like, oh, this is kind of good.
Maybe I'll have
it's
to
like the
watch that.
Zoran Mamdani of films. It's
Yeah.
the
Well,
equivalent.
props. Yeah, props to the Koreans for their cultural exports. I think it's like a huge chunk of their like GDP now is like, especially their exports are just from like the music and the movies, and obviously the K-pop stars are just world tours everywhere, and they have like kind of a economic model about it. They're very serious about it, and they take in a bunch of kids and stuff, and like maybe not grooming is maybe not the right word, but they kind of groom them into like superstars, and not necessarily the sexual assault,
Yeah.
the ramifications of that word, but they got like a whole
Well,
little, almost like farming feeder system of, K-pop stars.
well, I would say like the pure creativity of that film because I'd watched like another like American. It was an adaptation of the Twits, the Roald Dahl book, and like the music in that was so bad. I said before, it's like it was the first time I could think of animated characters that looked embarrassed to be singing the song that they were singing because the music
Yeah.
was so awful, and like the music is so legitimately like so much better in K-pop Demon Hunters. So it is. It's coming out of a completely different creative pipeline, like you're saying, than we have in the United States. But without doubt, like the creativity, there are limited options for creative people in the United States. It's very regimented. We got the gatekeeper system here, and I think a lot of our best talents just are not able to produce things here, like they are in other countries.
It reminds me a bit of the Frozen hype back when that came out, and everyone from Snoop Dogg to myself was singing along with the soundtrack. But this one was a much more of
Yeah.
an underdog. No one really saw it coming as just a straight to Netflix release. So that was fun to see. I've watched
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
twice now.
It'd be funny if the North Koreans got in on this, if they like chilled out on Kim Jong Un or whatever. It's like, instead of building nukes, why don't I go the South Korean route and just try to get addicting pop tunes to
Yeah.
to like export to the United States? We'll defeat the Americans that way.
That's kind of
Well,
brilliant,
if that
honestly.
happens, then good. That would be
Yeah.
fine. I'm not putting my money on it, but
Yeah,
I'm
right.
hoping. Well, what stuff have you watched lately, Dash?
I've been watching oh crap, it's the what is it? Keegan Michael Key
Mm,
College Friends, I
Kim
think it's
Peele?
called. I've been watching that. That's kind of interesting. Kind of about a group of college friends that get back together after like years apart, but then like all their merit they like cheat on their spouses with each other or something. It's like kind of weird. It's a lot of divorce going on. But it's kind of
Okay.
interesting. It's like kind of weird dialogue, but like there's like like truly gem moments where you laugh out loud from like a really good line, and it got kind of like mixed reviews. But I don't know, I'm kind of like watching it a little bit here and there, and it's entertaining enough to keep going with it.
It's made
Huh.
me sad a little bit that Jordan Peele has kind of overshadowed Keegan-Michael Key's career, and it's not totally undeserved, but he was such a driving force behind Key and Peele, and is so funny in his own right that it's kind of been a shame to see
Yeah,
him evaporate from the media just a bit. Like Jordan Peele has become a
yeah.
huge name, but I haven't heard a lot about Keegan-Michael Key recently, so I'm kind of curious about that.
Their Key and
That's called
Peele sketches are so funny and they
So
hold
good,
up so well.
and they have. Oh my god.
Yeah.
they do. That's called College Friends, or what was the name
I
of that
think it's
show?
yeah. Let me look it up. I think it's College Friends. Um, but yeah, kind of interesting. And Friends from College is what it's called.
Mm,
Okay,
yeah.
they end up sleeping
Yeah.
with everybody.
And
That's
and it's
funny.
like 2 seasons in. So I mean, if you're looking for a show, I don't think the episodes are too long, but kind of for me, it's like kind of easy watching at night. Although it gets a little depressing a little bit because I mean, I guess it's like kind of the premise of the show. It's not too much of a spoiler, but yeah, but it's interesting. It brings up a lot of thoughts about like your own friends groups and like friends you've had for a long time, but then everyone's lives move in different directions.
Yeah.
And then like we just, I wasn't able to go. I was working in Texas at the time, but a 15-year high school reunion just got together. So I wasn't able
Mm,
to go. I might have gone if I was,
Oh,
free, but it's just interesting. You go to things like that and you're like, 15 years later, it's like, what do we really have in common anymore other than just our parents happen to live next to each other? And, we took math class together in 10th grade or something like that.
I
you know
was
what? That's interesting. Well, we just had our 30-year one, but of course it got
mm,
that was the only like the first one I was gonna go to because I was out of the country for the first 20 years, and so I was like, oh, this would be interesting.
Where did you
But the
live? Where did you
reason you
live out of
do
the
it is you're like,
country?
what happened? Go ahead.
I was going to say, where did you live outside of the country?
I was in Peru for the W presidency, essentially.
Oh, okay.
That's where I met my wife. So I was in South America. I was like, I gotta get out of here. It's too crazy. And
Oh,
then I'm like,
gotcha.
oh, we elected Obama. America's fixed. And then I'm just like, fuck. So that's sort of what happened. But like getting back to the high school reunion thing, it's the older I get, it's sort of like you remember these characters, what they were like, and then now you get
Yeah.
the benefit of what happened to them. So it's like, oh, so that's where that personality type ends up. So
Yeah.
that's how you become kind of a wizard, where you can see the future because you've seen enough of the past. You
Yeah.
see the
Yeah.
pattern.
And it's
Mo-
interesting too, because I've like written about this a little bit, like some poetic ideas of just like, I feel like I travel a lot for my work. And so like a lot of my friends now are from this big team I travel with all the time. And we hang out in these different cities where we do these jobs. And so it's like really, it's a really good friendship where you're not really competitive. You're just happy for everybody because you only see each other here
Yeah.
and there and you have fun experiences with. But like, the friendships in high school, it's like you got all that baggage. Like they saw you throw up or pee your pants in grade school or something,
Yeah.
like, and in the show, for instance, like one of the characters all call one character a Frosh or Freshie or something like that because she was like younger and the freshmen when they were all like juniors or something. And it's like, a little bit of a recurring thing that she hates being called like Fresh or Frosh or whatever the nickname is, like, because now it's like 15 years
Yeah.
later and they're still calling her that. It's just like, it's like all that baggage on those like long-term friends. And then you kind of compare yourself to all those people. And so you're like judging your own life versus them. And there's like that level of competition that like the friends you make as adults are just like completely different because you don't have all that baggage, which I find interesting, that dynamic between the different friends that you have.
It's been funny talking to more different people about their high school reunions and coming to realize just how special and unique my own one was. I think that I was very fortunate to grow up in a district where so many of the people who I was geographically close to ended up being the kinds of people I would want to spend my life with anyway. And there is still that element of like each time we catch up, like you do have to have a bit of a one up contest and okay, here's everything that's going right in my life and whatnot. But my fear going into the reunion was that that's all that it would be, and honestly, it was just kind of therapeutic to see everybody in a new place in their life thriving. So many people who I thought were total shitheads back in high school have, like, since figured it out and are no longer those same shitheads they once were,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. I think about that a lot because it's like the rivalries you had in elementary school or
Yeah.
middle school, and then like you're like in your heart you're still a little bitter about like them screwing you over,
Yeah.
like making fun of you or something. But then it's like like you wake up, you're like, oh, I'm like 34 and I'm like really pissed off at a 12-year-old still.
Yeah,
I was
right.
like that idea.
That competitive aspect is really interesting too, and I think, yeah, once you get into life, you're pretty satisfied with your life. You're no longer like competing with other people is kind of a thing. And but yeah, it's because I grew up and my experience of going to Peru was like, oh, I need to like complete your remake. Exactly what you were talking about before, where people see you and they have this expectation of who you are. And like, if you want to get to a point where you forge your own identity, you need to create some separation from that. Or I was at a point where like, the hell with all you guys, I'm going as far away. And this was like, at the dawn of email. So I was still like, there was no social media when I left, so I could disappear back then. It's become increasingly more difficult to disappear, but I do recommend, I mean, it's hard for people if you have good relationships with them where you're just like, "Look, I just need to have a break for, like, 2 years." And I think people do need to go through that because exactly the reasons you said where, like, even growing up with your kids and you've seen their most embarrassing moments, and even if I don't bring it up, they're reminded of it just by seeing me. So it's just sorta like I guess I have to fortify my own heart against my kids needing to spend, like, 2 years out of contact from me. But I think that is part of growing, and then we just hope that they're willing to come back. Uh,
Yeah. How do you think about like your kids and their friends? Like, is that an interesting dynamic just seeing like the kind of people your kids are growing up into? And
oh,
obviously, like, your friends group, like really, they say you're like the composite of your five closest friends or something. So, like,
Yeah.
as a parent, you're like, hey, don't have shithead friends. Yeah.
well, yeah. Well, my kids, it's just I can't even hardly identify 'em with them at this point because they first of all, they love school. I just hated school at every and they're in sports and they're in every single activity they can do, and they're group and so they're all just in this position. I mean, I went to this really rural little school of, a town of 2,000 people that, like, didn't value education at all, so it was, like, just a constant battle. You get beat up for carrying a book around, where my girls are, like,
Nerd.
celebrated for being well, I fought back pretty hard. It got pretty brutal, and so, like, I didn't wanna do that, though, but, like, my girls are celebrated for being good students and things, so it's sorta like, yeah, it's night and day. I honestly they're already at a point where I'm just trying to not screw things up rather than try to give them advice. Maybe
Yeah,
that's a
right.
good way to go about life.
Yeah. I recently saw the comedian Nate Bargatze. He's on like this giant tour. He's like the biggest comedian right now. So I was like really amped to see him. But he had this hilarious bit about like sleepovers with his kids and like how
Yeah.
like like he was talking about the difference between his like daughter's friends and his son's friends and how like daughters is like you don't want them splitting up and talking about each other. You don't want the friend group to split up. But with like the boys, it's like, hey, why don't you guys split up and go do your own thing now? Like they're all loud and throwing things. It's like you want to split up the boys, but the girls is like he was talking about how it's like I think his wife was telling him that she like one of her like most like formative like horrific moments came from like a sleepover where like the girls like isolated her kind of and were like making fun of her and stuff like that. And it's funny, it's like that responsibility as a parent when he was talking about how like now his kids are having those sleepovers and he's trying to prevent those moments where like the kids get like bullied or made fun of or you just have that moment that'll follow you the rest of your life based on like one sleepover or something like that. And
Yeah.
obviously he was way funnier than I was recounting this, but
Once did you guys was that common for you guys? Because you guys are both younger than me. Did you guys do a lot of sleepovers or no?
Yeah, I
I
did a
did a
lot of sleepovers.
few. Yeah, like a good amount, I guess. Birthday parties and stuff. Once you hit like middle school, kind of big like sleepover parties and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
True.
We did it seems like we did it a lot. I did it a lot more than my kids did, but my wife's from Peru too, so it's her and then I have daughters, so that's a little bit different too. I think especially now, and especially in this environment where it's like, yeah, the daughters of my immigrant wife, you're not going to just drop them off at any house, in the environment that the United States has been for the last 15 years. So there's a lot of kind of factors. One of my friends, he says, he's like, you're a little overprotective. But he's like, and then he's like, I don't blame you. So I guess that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, two of my best friends growing up were both named Gabe, and we would all sleep over at each other's houses pretty frequently. And one of them lived in a pretty smallish apartment, and they had a roommate living in one of the rooms. And we just had no freaking regard for that roommate whenever we had those sleepovers. Just playing like Pictionary at like literally 3, 4 in the morning, just like yelling, laughing, and the roommate would keep just coming out and be like, "Shut up, you guys!" And we just had no real like sense of like, okay, they're in a legally binding contract with the person here, and
Yeah, right.
but yeah, we had a lot of fun sleepovers, and we were just like you say, the difference between sexes is so hilarious. Like I never had a sleepover with girls growing up myself, but you could just like hear from the stories that like those were a different animal entirely. Like we were just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
rowdy, laughing up at like
Right.
3, 4 in the morning, just doing our thing. But
Yeah.
yeah,
But sometimes, especially guys, it's almost like you got to be worried about like what like you do and what the activities are, Like in high school, you go to the party where like some guy just wants to show everybody like snuff films, or something. Like that happened. Like one friend was like really weird. He's like, let's watch, you're like, watch Jackass when you're in middle school, like before you're really maybe like
Yeah.
totally ready to see some things like that. But yeah,
I
just
told
memories of childhood.
Yeah. No,
I've told the
it feels
story
like it's
once or
gone away a
twice
little
about
bit though. But we
I've
were
told
always go ahead, sorry.
I've told the story once or twice about my dad, and one of his friends tried to have a boys' night one night and went to see Jackass 2 in theaters. And to date, it's like one of the only movies in my entire life that we had to walk out of. There is
You guys weren't into Jackass. Yeah. Sometimes those get too gross for me too. They're a little too mean. But I come from the generation of, leave on your bike in the morning and come back, hour after dark. And so things have been kind of changing. It was Stranger Things actually gets it pretty close,
yeah.
including like the part of the alternate
Yeah.
dimension that kidnaps kids. That also happened in real life.
Yeah. Nowadays, it sucks because like parents are almost like you can be like arrested for just like your kids like just wandering around the park. Like I used to do that all the time. We live next to a park. We just go there all the time, hang out with our friends. And then like, especially when I was growing up, like I had one friend, Shane, where like no matter what I was doing, I was like, hey mom, dad, going to Shane's house, like
Yeah.
go to some party in high school. I was just always Shane's house, like whether or not I was actually going to Shane's house.
And that's interesting too. And I think part of it is because we don't have a real true social dialogue about where the predators are. We blame all these innocent groups because I was talking to a guy and he worked with the what's it called, like the 911 caller, and he's just like, it's never like if a kid goes away, it's never just some random guy grabbed her. That just like literally never happened. It's always, like a divorced family and the somebody or a family member or somebody.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
never just a stranger grabs a kid, it happens like 12 times, when the whole history of the
Yeah, right.
country is going.
Even
So
gun violence, it's like almost always somebody that knows somebody. It's very rare that you just get like a random like drive by, just
yeah, and most gun
just
violence is suicide. 2/3 of gun deaths are suicide, and that's another thing that nobody talks about. So
yeah. I think about that a lot because, like, objectively, like everybody is so much safer than in the '70s. That, like, crime peaked literally in the early '90s, and so, like, it's weird we have this perception that things have like never been more dangerous or risky,
Yeah.
even though, like, objectively, no, everything is safer and less risky compared to like 50 years ago. 100 years ago, you could just kill somebody, kill a bunch of people and move like 40 miles away. No one knew
yeah,
who you were. No one could look you up. Like, like the amount of like probably just like serial criminals that were probably around
yeah.
everywhere like 100 years ago, certainly like, medieval times, like,
Have you ever heard about
geez.
the Have you ever heard about the lead poisoning thing? Because when they used to have lead in gas
Yeah. In
and the lead actually
1978,
made people.
they got rid of that. Yeah.
Yeah, but the lead made people insane, and
Yeah.
it's like having it's like lead contamination, and I think it was about 1970 or so. I remember seeing leaded and unleaded at the
Yeah.
gas station. So it was just it made people crazy, and once they got rid of it, it stopped making people crazy. But it was sort of like decades of this, and the
Yeah.
crime rate
That's one of
started
the
going down.
Yeah, that's one of the main theories on why crime peaked in the early 90s. Part of it was like they went overkill on the like anti-crime bills like Bill Clinton passed and stuff. But like a big part of it people theorized was just like in the early 90s, it was like that last generation of kids that grew up like inhaling all the leaded gas fumes everywhere, like in traffic. And like you finally just had like kids like brains not be lead poisoned.
Um, I was fortunate to grow up with graphite in my pencils and something other than the lead in our paint.
Does
But
anybody
Yeah,
ever
that's
stab
true.
you with the pencil and leave it like broken
uh,
off? You ever get stabbed with a pencil and have it like broken off under your skin, so you have to pick out
I don't
like the
think that ever
lead?
happened to me, but I remember that happening to people, and like even to this day, they got those little, the lead scar or whatever.
did you guys ever do paper wasps by any chance? Do you know what paper wasps are?
No, what is
Uh-uh.
it?
Okay, I'm glad I get to tell you guys for the first time. Um, so so basically, you would fold up a piece of paper as many times as you can, so it's the maximum possible thickness. If you were a real asshole, you would put a staple into the center of it, and then you would take a rubber band and just shoot it across the room at somebody. And those
Oh.
ones with staples in it had the power to like pierce freaking skin.
Paper wasps. That's great. We played.
Uh,
Do you remember the game Bloody Knuckles, where you just you put your fist down
yeah.
on the table like that, and you like just throw a quarter or a nickel or something at the other person's knuckles as hard as you possibly can. Like everyone's knuckles are just bleeding.
We all the crazy stuff we used to do. And then of course there was King of the Hill. I always talk about the King of the Hill, like we'd pick up the big snow pile and kids would just brutally you try to get to the top of the hill and throw all the other kids down. And every kid would come
Yeah.
back from recess. They were all concussed. You could tell because they're getting thrown down
Yeah.
hard on the concrete.
Yeah.
And kids
Yeah.
were in the back of the class just not able to move and then
Yeah.
they'd go throw up. Yeah.
When I was
It
in
was
high school, we had this great dodgeball game where it was like dodgeball with all these balls, and like if you shot it into like the basketball hoop, everyone that was in prison or whatever could come free.
Mm.
But
oh
I
yeah.
remember we got so violent with it in my high school that like the assistant principal came down like just to check up on things, check out like gym class, and like our vice principal or whatever was so alarmed that like immediately was like, no, you cannot play this game anymore. But like obviously that was the funnest game we ever played in high school, you know.
There's
Oh,
there's there's a day camp down my street that I went to as a kid, and my father actually went to when he was a kid. So it's a bit of a generational thing for us. But it's been very interesting to track the ways that parents have just gotten safer and safer and more demanding over time about what we're allowed to do. Like my dad talks about how they used to have rock climbing at that camp, and we did not have that when we were campers. And we had these what I remember from my childhood was with that we had these very intense and injury-prone games of cops and robbers and dodgeball too. But now they've done away with a lot of those more fun activities too. It just gets safer and safer with each successive generation.
yeah, safer
Yeah.
means boring. Somebody wrote there about the playgrounds, and like there's always that spinning thing that you'd get on there and just spin it like this, and it would get going so fast. That would be another one. You could knock somebody unconscious if because they always get these kids that aren't paying attention, and they're just like, ugh, they
Yeah.
smack their head into the thing. But this season, this summer, we went to the water park, and actually, this is another place of me finding my age because some of those water park rides were just too intense for me, you know. And I was like, I thought it
Yeah.
was like I just like the ones where I get to sit here like wee and like go down the loop. And they have these ones that are like straight down. And I got to the point where I'm getting to the top of these rides and I'm making sure the weight requirement is okay because I'm like, these are made for like kids that are like 100
Yeah.
pounds. And it's like, what's the tolerance going to be for a
Yeah, yeah.
240-pound guy? So I survived.
My favorite game
So,
growing up, we had a neighbor with a trampoline, and this was before, the nets that they have now. And we would play dodgeball and trampoline, where like you're jumping, and like everyone else is in a circle around, taking turns just throwing a dodgeball as hard as you can at the person jumping. And nobody ever broke a limb, so that was good. But like, man,
oh,
you're trying to dodge like multiple dodgeballs on a trampoline with no net, no guards, and like just as high as you jump is how far you'll fall if you jump too far and miss the edge. But super
those
fun.
trampolines are dangerous. We used to play, one of my friends had a pool table. So we just like, people would put their finger on the edge. You try to hit them with the ball, but the trick,
Yeah.
but the trick would be to throw it hard enough so that even if they put their hand back, the ball would hit the edge and bounce up and hit them in the face. So that's what we
Yeah.
were really aiming for.
It
So
was universally understood among my friend group that trampolines were the greatest, and universally understood among our parents that they were major insurance hazards. So no one wanted to feel the risk of putting one in their yard. But those few people who
Yeah.
did have trampolines had built-in friend groups around them.
Did
Yeah.
did you ever see did you ever see there's like this photo, because we talk about our playgrounds from 30 years ago, but there's this photos like playgrounds from 1800.
Yeah.
And then like even in that photo, there's like a kid falling off the thing.
Yeah.
It's like even in the time when the one time they took a picture, the kid's already falling off the dang thing. I thought that was fun.
In the 1800s, they probably had like real guns to play with or
Yeah,
something.
well, there was
Yeah,
like
real
home
rifles.
uranium. They had like
Yeah.
this home radioactive kit. I remember seeing that where they gave you like a bit of uranium.
Yeah.
Play with this. But here's another fun thing to do after this is jump on YouTube and just do a search for like playgrounds in Russia. Because like Russian, I like watching Russian fails. That's what I do about half of my view time. I watch fails in Russia. And
Oh,
they had this
really?
one where they're at this playground, and it was like every single toy, the kid got in it and it just like flipped upside down. And that was like the whole, like every single one inverted the kid. And I'm like, what is this? Why is this even fun? And like there was like two drunk guys and they're like grabbing out of things and freaking out and flipping upside down. So find that video. That made me laugh. Playgrounds in Russia.
They had more fun playgrounds back then, and they had cocaine in their soda. Y'all guys were living back then.
Oh, we got to go back to that.
I think
Oh
my dad was
man,
saying
we
once
pretty much
that
are.
my dad, like growing up in the like late 50s, early 60s, like they would break thermometers and play with the, the
Hmm.
mercury inside the
Oh man.
thermometer because it had like weird chemical properties.
Yeah, it just flows really weird. When my grandpa passed away, he had like a test tube full of mercury. I think he was a doctor. I think he just saved it. So we're just like, what do we even do with this now? Because it's like hazardous. It'll get into the drinking
Yeah.
water, and it was just like in his house, this like test tube full of mercury that he'd gotten out of old broken thermometers.
Yeah. There's
He came
a,
back from World War II. He had tracer bullets. He came back from World War II, and he used to just he'd go out and shoot them over the lake just to see the
yeah.
tracers go over the lake. Yeah.
Yeah. Good, clean family fun. Just showing off the tracer bullets.
Oh, there's the stuff that happens in Wisconsin. Just some of the things. Did you guys
Well,
ever do parties where you like burn a tire? Do you ever do
I
that?
was at a party where we burned a couch. Like my friend had a farm, and we would do farm parties and just like burn all kinds of random furniture and stuff like that, and like a bunch of stuff you probably shouldn't be breathing that is on fire.
we
If you've
we had
ever seen
this.
like a car tire burn, it's like shoots up a thing of flame. It's unbelievable, but totally illegal. Don't do it.
Yeah, yeah. I've been to a couple of those Formula Drift events where they like, it's just everyone is sitting in the stands, and Formula Drift is not really a race. They're kind of doing stunts and like drifting, but like it just sends a giant cloud of tire dust, which now we know is like extremely cancerous. You're not supposed to be
Yeah.
ingesting just like giant fume clouds full of tire dust, but I guess the people there like it.
Coke and Mentos was one of our big pastimes for a little while. But if we were
Oh,
feeling especially excited, we would go in on a whole watermelon and climb to the top of this cliff and just lob it off.
Yeah.
wait. What's with the watermelon? You filled up the watermelon with Coke and Mentos? Is that
Oh
what you
no,
said?
no.
Or did I mishear?
If we were feeling more adventurous than Coke and Mentos, we would each go in on buying a watermelon, and then there's this like cliff nearby that has sadly since been fenced off. But we would climb up the cliff with a whole ass watermelon and just throw it off into the parking lot.
Yeah. Somebody wrote, "These are such guy things," and it's very
Yeah,
true. I love
it's so
throwing
true.
things off of high heights to see how it breaks.
Yeah. Well, just skipping rocks, and then it escalates from there. We used to do winter camping too. We'd wait till a nice blizzard, and would it be like 20 below overnight? We'd go. So then you're basically just feeding a bonfire all night so you don't freeze to death. Those are good times.
Oh
We
yeah,
watch shows like Bear Grylls and be like, "What? Why do people even watch this? This is just the way we lived."
I loved Man vs. Wild.
And I love that
Bear
show
Grylls,
too.
Bear Grylls was a hero of mine. Like not so much with the drinking your urine in every episode. Not necessarily something I was trying to do, but it's good to know if I'm ever in that like do or die
Oh,
situation. Skin a snake, pee into the snake, tie it up, and you got
no.
a water bottle for later.
Oh. Well, that
Have you
snake one,
seen?
the one where he gets stung, and so his face,
Oh
like, he has
yeah,
a reaction to getting stung, and he's walking around with this snake skin filled with pee, and he always
yeah.
describes it. He just, like, tastes like snake guts and pee. I don't know. I watch those with my kids. They're just like I just tell them, "Don't this isn't survival. This is just stupid," but it makes me laugh.
Have you seen the Outdoor Boys YouTube channel?
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Oh,
guy's
what's that?
great.
Outdoor Boys?
Yeah, you would enjoy that, Walter. I get
Right.
a real vicarious thrill out of that one. It's this guy in his 40s or 50s probably has a couple kids of his own, but he goes on the most intrepid adventures. Like it'll be like sub 30 degrees and he's just talking about how to survive and yeah, this one veered away from
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
been a fun little tangent though. I like
Hopefully,
thinking
Diana
about
here did not just enter in when we're talking about the
that.
drinking urine.
I'm glad she's got that
Yeah.
laughing emoji there, so that's good. Otherwise, I would have
Yeah.
been worried. But she gave us the
Outdoor Boys
laughter
is
emoji.
great. Like he was coming up on my TikTok all the time, and like that dude, he'll make giant shelters and like bury deep in the snow and stuff, make like giant igloos. And there's been a couple times where like it literally looked like he was about to die until like he would find like some shack that just miraculously he could like go there. It was like freezing up and getting hypothermia, and it's like it was almost like his fingers were too frozen to like take off his clothes to get warm and start a fire. Like that guy really is intense about the outdoor adventures.
This is
Yeah.
Outdoor Boys on YouTube, you said, is what it's called?
Yes.
Or
Yep.
I gotta watch this. This sounds like fun.
I
Yeah,
just
it's a
watch a lot
treasure
of
trove.
TikTok clips if you want like a smaller dose of it or whatever. But there's a
Okay.
lot of a lot of those accounts that just like steal other people's videos and post it on their own. But it just kept coming up on my algorithm. So apparently the algorithm knows I like
Yeah.
wilderness survival.
Diana says it's not that shocking because she grew up in the 60s. So that is interesting. I'm glad that other people had these kind of experiences. There was another one I was watching. There was this dude. This dude was like really bad at putting together his electronics. He kept like starting out like it was going to be an instruction video, and then he'd get a shock, and it was just watching this guy over and over again was making me because he got some really bad shocks.
Yeah.
Then he'd crash. Yeah.
I'm always impressed at like, how just resilient the human body is, like especially kids, like how many videos of kids falling off things
Oh,
and hitting their heads and just doing dumb
oh,
things. But like it is a testament to like our bone strength and like I guess just our pliability and our human
oh.
form, that is, and I guess like nature has evolved for like most creatures to like take big falls and still survive. Obviously, there's some great benefit and survivability for that for evolution, but it is kind of cool, especially when you see a kid just like totally wipe out on a bike or something and like, brush it off like it was nothing.
That goes away as you get older. I can verify that. Yeah, you can
Yeah.
just lay there now. I'm just like, okay, oh
Yeah.
wow.
Have you seen any of
I,
those guys that just make like purposefully stupid and dangerous inventions? Like one guy, I think he set up his like toothbrush to like a fucking jackhammer or something.
those are my favorite episodes of the Mythbusters show when they would just do like insanely impractical things just for the fun of it.
There was one where they on MythBusters, he went online because they were supposed to be able to buy like a jetpack, like you because like you can assemble this jetpack. They're just like, all right. So they buy like the kit. They're trying to it's like this thing, yeah. So it's like an engine and it had these props and everything. You're supposed to be able to go flying off with it. Like it's not going to work, and it's insanely dangerous to even suggest this.
Yeah.
And then the
Kind of on
Russian
this
ones are always another. Go ahead.
I was going to say, kind of on this subject, there's this book I love. It's called A Short History of Nearly Everything by Bill Bryson. You guys might have heard of
Mm-hmm,
it or seen it, but
mm-hmm.
that book is great because it's basically like the history of like every branch of science, and it gets really good because like in the 1700s and 1800s, before like modern technology and a lot of knowledge about like health and like just
Yeah.
like nature and materials and things like that. But like the scientists that like were going around in like the 1700s, like just experimenting with like very proto like flight, very proto like going underwater in these weird homemade contraptions to see like how to not get the bends when they're coming up from super deep. like some guy, they would stare at the sun and just see how long they could stare at the sun. They'd go blind for like days because they're figuring out all the science that we now take for granted, and it's very educational because you just get like weird eccentric dudes who are rich, in 1700s
Yeah,
money, and like they just have, they don't have jobs. They, maybe some of them even have slaves or something, so they just have like nothing but free time to just experiment with like the extent of like human endurance or like what are
stare into the
just
sun.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right. Like obviously a lot of people died, like you get those like early blimps and stuff like that. And they're just going really high up into the air and seeing what happens. Like it's
Oh,
very entertaining to read.
there-
And
there's the video of the first guy with the parachute. Have you ever seen? He was like goes off the Eiffel Tower, and he's like
Yeah.
standing there. He's like
Right.
showing it. He's
Yeah,
like he
yeah.
died. He died. He
Yeah.
jumped off. It doesn't open. And then they show like
Yeah.
the dent he made in the ground, like in this.
Oh my god.
They have
Yeah.
this like old camera, like
Yeah.
tick, 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 and then, like, he's like trying to work up his courage to jump, and we're just like, "Don't do it! Don't do it!"
Yeah,
And
yeah, right.
he dies.
And like, yeah, when they're developing the bulletproof vest, there were a lot of guys volunteering to get shot in the chest to see what
Oh,
materials would stop a bullet.
I've been going to this dental school recently to save a few $1,000s on dental work from my regular dentist, and there have been a few moments of man, this could be a little bit safer. These guys could be a little more professional, but each time in walking to my appointment, they have this little exhibit of what dental equipment used to be like in the 17 and
Oh yeah,
1800s.
yeah,
And it's just freaking brutal. Like they would
yeah.
just like drill into you with like active drills and like, oh, I'm trying to think of some of the examples, but they look downright medieval. Like I would not want to get dental work done in the 17, 1800s.
Yeah, I went to a museum once that had a special exhibit on the medical instruments and stuff of the Civil War and like all the tools and stuff that they,
oh,
and then that was back before like doctors thought like you're a little bitch if you wash your hands before surgery. It's
yeah.
like so like not very great health standards, but
Well,
like
that's
brutal,
that
like the sawing
Ignaz.
off of bones and stuff.
Well, that guy, the story of Ignaz Immelweis, I think is his name, and he's the first guy he studied it. He's like, why do all the babies die in the hospital and not in the midwife center? And he's just like, well, the only thing I see different is the midwives are washing their hands. And he
Yeah,
proposed it. He ended up being just discredited as a doctor. He ended up getting beaten to death in a mental
yeah,
institution. And
yeah.
this was his. He was like,
Right.
just wash your hands. And they're like, they
Yeah, for
kill him for
real.
that. Yeah. Yeah, you're right though. It's just like all those failures though are where all the discoveries happen. I remember reading an article about the first airplane hulls because they used to go by like failure point versus like fail safe. And they just like
Yeah,
anticipate the number of hours these airplanes could run, but they had the calculation off. So the first airplanes, these were like the ones with the pressurized hulls. The first ones were blowing up like you know, when they'd gone only half as many hours as they thought they could fly, they kept falling out of the sky. So then they had to completely rethink how they were making airplane hulls. But yet, every single time we've had a technological advancement, it's because of a tragedy where like all kinds of people died, whether it's the
yeah,
parachute or airplanes or dental
yeah,
work or anything we're talking about.
One of the interesting things about watching this new Dexter show is that it really kind of shows that technological divide between just as recently as the mid 2000s and the 2020s. Because in the earlier show, like people do have cell phones, but they're not like these crazy smartphones. And now in the recent season, I think that one of the bigger fumbles was trying to integrate the world of like smartphones and
Uh,
AirPods being used as trackers into the plot. And it just like it was a fun reminder of like, wow, the world really has become much more of a police state in the last 10, 15 years alone.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. But it's interesting. I was reading up on like the history of like cell phones and stuff, and it was talking about how like really it wasn't until like the early to mid '90s that almost anybody really had cell phones, even though the
Yeah.
technology kind of got started in the '70s. But that's like my lifetime. We are one generation away from like
Yeah.
not being able to just call people from anywhere. And then you go back like 100 years, and like nobody had actual phones. So like the whole idea of just being able to contact somebody without literally being in the same room as them is like literally like what is that 3 generations, like 100 years, and it's insane, like just how much progress we've made in such a short amount of time. And now we're living at this, like, the peak for right now, but obviously 100 years from now,
Yeah.
like, we can't even imagine the technology, and we'll look like dumb little provincial rubes here while we're like, the three of us are talking in a joint call, like, and this is like groundbreaking on Substack. It'll publish right to a podcast afterwards without us having to do anything. And like, this is
Yeah.
so cool and futuristic, but this is like, it's like imagining like Lincoln, like being, walking down the muddy street of Springfield, Illinois, and it's just,
Yeah.
it's amazing how times change. But we're really, I mean, like most modern things are like 1880s plus, like most culture, most new things have only been around for like 140 years tops,
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting to think about it, just how
Yeah.
little life changed for so long and now how fast life is changing.
I think you've tapped into something really important because I think we're at this turning point in history because in the past, something new could come along and then the writers would kind of predict all the potential bad things before that thing became so populated that, you know, we couldn't be prevented. But now, like these new technologies are so powerful, and everybody gets them. Like the nefarious actors are able to just do horrible things before we even anticipate,
Yeah.
as a society, how to prevent it from happening. So, I think
Yeah.
that's a big part of what we're dealing with, like all the proliferation of bots, with propaganda messaging on the internet and social media and all things like that.
Mm.
It's radically transformed society faster than we've been able to anticipate the problems it could create. So we just have to live through them.
It always frustrates me a little bit when a new iPhone comes out and the general narrative around that is like, "Oh my God, change a little bit more. These are just incremental improvements." Da da da. But the fact that we live in a world where we're able to release iPhones that improve anything at all on a yearly basis is
Yeah.
just astounding to me. And like you were saying, Dash, there was once a time when whole millennia could lapse and the world would remain a familiar place. And now to look at the world today is just an entirely different experience from looking at it 10 years ago. And we really are living on a parabola.
Yeah.
Parabola? Yeah.
Forever, yeah. Did you ever and there's another weird thing that's happened though too, because somebody said, like, if you take office attire from, like, 1990, it looks exactly the same. Like, at some point, like, we were watching the Brady Bunch, and it's like, okay, they're dressing totally different, but now it's like the way people dress doesn't change anymore. It's like, I don't know about that conformity thing or what's going. It's a little bit weird. I guess it's maybe some of the stuff that should creep us out more isn't as obvious as it should be because it's like,
Yeah.
why doesn't fashion change anymore? What happened there? So I think that's strange.
Well, nowadays it's like there's not, things move so fast and there's so much individuality. And I think with the internet where you can just see a million things. So like a good example of this is like I think Bill Burr was talking about like drummers. It used to, they used to have like in, like the grunge era, like just, in Seattle, it's like just the people around you taught you how to play music a different way. And then that blew up into a big thing. But like nowadays, it's like a 5-year-old is a better drummer than most drummers from 50 years ago,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
just because they're just watching videos and they can see any style, any person, you can learn how to play a ukulele like a Hawaiian. Like 100 years ago, you'd have to go to Hawaii to do that. And so just all change took so long to kind of diffuse to like, the broader community or the global community. But now everything is so instantaneous and you can see everything. Like, it's like the joke of just like, you see more people in like an hour than most people would see in their entire lifetimes, like, in the 1400s or something like that, right? Like, I think a comedian, never mind, I don't want to bring that up, but
No, but you're right too, like the loss of
not a, what's that?
like the loss of regional dialects too. Like there's going to be
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
conformity of
right,
that.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And now you just have access to literally everything. And it's probably what's driving us so insane and making us all depressed is just you're just constantly scrolling people on vacations, living in these beautiful homes. It's like you're just more aware of ever before that like there's so many more options. And I think
Yeah.
people are so depressed because, it is kind of a mirage. You're seeing people's greatest hits that like everyone's like best moments that they put everywhere on social media. And then now more and more, it's like not even people It's like, Facebook is like you never see your friends' content anymore. Everything is just other people. And so like I saw an interesting thing
Yeah.
talking about this TikTok trend of making boo baskets, where like girls want boo
Oh yeah.
baskets from their boyfriends, and now it's becoming a big thing of like these girls are like depressed. My boyfriend, my husband doesn't love me. He didn't give me a boo basket for Halloween. It's like this thing did not exist 6 months ago, and it's just a TikTok trend, and it's done by influencers who are making money off this, and their boyfriends didn't do it. They did it for themselves for the video clout, and it's just like it's driving us insane. We're just constantly, talking about like comparing your lives to others, so like the people you went to school with, like we were talking about earlier. You're comparing your life to like everybody on the entire world now, you know?
Yeah.
The whole globalization trend is kind of a plus and minus when traveling because you don't really get that experience of immersing yourself in a completely foreign culture in the way that you once would have. And
Yeah.
there's nobody I meet on these trips out of the country where they're just completely unaware of American culture and our state of politics, and it does kind of detract from the sense of immersion that you would feel. And I think it can be helpful when you're a new traveler and you're just facing all of this for the first time yourself and it's all unfamiliar, but it really does take away from that sense of immersion.
Yeah. I think it's interesting what you're saying too, because my thoughts went back to the Hayes Code again, because we had, with when they had the
Shout out
new
to Hayes.
technology of film. Well, they had the new technology of film, and so they instantly implemented this could really screw people up if we show them a bunch of things that would destroy society. And now we have all these other technologies that are so much bigger, and we don't. And it seems like we're going to need some sort of a rational approach to handling these algorithms, like you said, because they've all been pushing hate content. That's another thing that
Yeah.
happens. Like on the end, you still can get away, but I mean, yeah, just encouraging people to have days where they're logged off from the internet. Even that's hard to do. That's basically been our tactic since the election, is to just watch cartoons, watch the Brady Bunch and cartoons from 100 years ago, which are weird, by the way, like really weird. All those old cartoons. But yeah, we'll have to have more talks just about what kind of, how do you handle the algorithms and just all that data that we have access to. What's a responsible way to handle that? I don't think there's an easy answer there.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
something I
definitely
think
not.
about constantly. Like I'm both in awe of where we are technologically, but also very fearful of it. And I'm always kind of taken aback by the people who are just treat what we're living through as just like totally normal, and it's not something
Yeah.
to find remarkable. Like it's certainly got its pluses and negatives, but just like you were saying before, Dash, the fact that we can have these conversations and be in different parts of the world, different time zones, and still see each other face to face, it's so remarkable that it makes me feel like the story that these times will ultimately tell isn't necessarily going to be a bad one. Like we jump right to the climate change and the state of the politics and forget how incredible it is that we've been born into these achievements.
Mhm.
Yeah, what do you think's the bigger problem though? Is it the algorithm? Like, do you think in some sense that there should be gatekeepers? We need more gatekeepers in like our
Mhm.
digital lives, and like not having such unfettered control will be something like our smart, like psychologically we should treat like social media and just the endless scroll like a drug that you should not be, like teen girls should not be spending 8 hours a day
Hmm.
scrolling like every single day. Like,
Well, maybe
yeah, I don't know.
maybe the
Is it
answer
a
is
No.
personal
no.
responsibility thing?
I would think maybe the answer is no gatekeepers, where it's merit based, because what we have now is we have somebody selecting what we read, and this gets back to what we were talking about. Because I just don't trust the literary system in the United States. I don't think the books they're picking are the right books. It's like, and we see that with K-pop Demon Hunters, where you get something from a whole nother system that's so much better than what we can create here. But yeah, I don't know for sure. I guess I'm scared of these false narratives that are pushed as if
Yeah.
they're popular. I mean, who decides what songs are on the radio? I kind of like the local college station where they never played the same song twice. They'll just throw on some song from some kid sent in a song, and
Yeah,
it's like, oh, I could go track that down, and I get to be
right.
Yeah.
exposed to new stuff all the time. Whereas if it's regular radio, it's just Taylor Swift, Taylor Swift, Taylor Swift. I've
Right.
had enough of
Well,
her.
is the problem then the algorithm? Because I mean, like algorithms are kind of gatekeepers in their own ways, especially when you have a
Yes.
private company that can, manipulate the algorithm to, turn you against your own government, or like, nowadays there's not that many companies, but imagine in the future where you have way more, like, it's essentially like companies with their own algorithms that are competing rather than just like Facebook versus Instagram.
Yeah.
Maybe there's like 10 Facebooks and Instagrams that just, hey,
Right.
ours is the super liberal algorithm or, whatever. Like at a certain point, like, will it even match ours? And I guess then you get into the kind of like dystopian fears of like,
Yes.
Big Brother and government and stuff like that.
You're right.
Yeah,
These are
we,
these are important things to discuss. I mean,
yeah,
control of information is what it comes down to. And I guess maybe we just have to sit down because you're framing this in a way I haven't really thought about before, and I think that's really important. Like, how do we even make a system that would be fair and good for humanity? And we haven't even started talking about it, really, right? Like, what are the
yeah.
characteristics? Like, fact checking would be nice. We have the ability to, when politicians speak, we could instantly fact check. That would be a good thing,
But
right? But
how
then
do you
it's like, well,
have
who's
that?
doing the fact checking? Yeah.
Yeah, how do you have that? Because like Wikipedia, there's fact checking, but oh my God, like there's articles where people have been fighting each other for literally like
Yep.
10 years
Yep.
about like one line and one Wikipedia page. And like, like how do you have like where's the neutrality, or the
Yeah.
objective facts? Like at a certain point, when you have so many different perspectives that are able to have the kind of weight on social media that
Yeah.
is there any objectivity? Is everything just purely subjective?
And then the speakers will adapt too, because I was on a talk the other day, and the person I was talking with, she put it through a fact checker, and I realized I just never cite statistics, and I speak in a way that it's like, well, it's this, but it's like not something that you could ever really. And I've adapted this without even having been subjected to fact checking before, so it's like pretty quickly human beings will adapt again. But yeah, not no easy answers, but these are
Yeah.
important questions nonetheless.
What do you do with your kids? Do you cut them off on social media or anything at a certain point? Are you worried about like what they're viewing? Do you have like parental controls?
They don't use social media. I don't have they've got flip phones, like, they don't have but they get on stuff. They don't have social media accounts, but we
How old are they? How old are your kids?
I got a sophomore and a 7th grader.
Oh,
So,
okay.
and yeah, they they've grown up pretty good critical thinkers. I guess maybe I'm being naive if I don't think they have bad influences, but we watch a lot of things together and we talk through a lot of things. I mean, pretty much everything is open for discussion in our household, and we encourage a lot of challenges and things like that too. So I think but you're right. I guess the the stuff is always the stuff you least expect, where the problems happen and it slips through. So I'll have to meditate on that thought again, on that question a little bit
Yeah,
more
right.
too.
Yeah.
But they don't have Facebook or anything like that. I try to discourage that, but
Do they even want it? Because I've been hearing like Gen Alpha, it's almost like now a cringy
yeah,
thing. But
not
Gen
not
Z,
they
and they're like
don't.
so obsessed.
Whoops, we're getting a little bit.
Yeah,
No, they don't want it.
my parents gave me free reign over the internet when I was younger, and I think they were the most base level restrictions that they tried to have with me. But ultimately, I there was very little that I wanted to see that I couldn't see in those early days on the internet, and what that resulted in was just me and my friends watching the most fucked up, raunchy shit sometimes, and like
Yeah.
I I don't think that I could give my own kids, if I ever have any, just free reign over the internet and TikTok. There's just too much shit you can see. I'd hate to be the sheltered parent, but man,
Yeah.
it's there. Yeah, there are no easy solutions to any of these problems, and they're certainly big conundrums.
I'd be
Yeah.
afraid of
I mean,
them having some guy send them messages or whatever. You hear these days where people are like,
Yeah,
"This is my internet boyfriend," and then they like get a car and drive to meet somebody, and they're never heard from again. But I don't know. Yeah, just teach them critical thinking, and then you got to trust them a little bit, But no
well,
easy answer.
nowadays it's like the joke that like you have to babysit your parents online. They get into the algorithms, and now it's like your dad and mom are like just obsessed with Fox News and like
Yeah,
Breitbart, back in the day, and it's just like you get in these rabbit holes where they don't like have the critical thinking, or like they didn't have the childhood like the people today have of like growing up with the internet and things like that.
and I believe in giving. I think they should have a right to some privacy. I mean, I demand some privacy, and I think every human being just needs. Because some parents are like, "There's no closed doors in my house." It's like, well, sometimes you just need to go deal with something by yourself, and I think that I
yeah,
would think we have to have that level of trust. So I
Yeah.
think
Right.
sometimes too, if you try to control too much, then you push them into trouble
Oh
because then
yeah.
they're going to do
Right.
so. It's
The kids who
weird.
grew up with like really sheltered, lives with their parents being overbearing, like those are the kids who go to college and go like way hardcore overboard because they've never had freedom before and don't know what to
Yeah.
do with it.
Yeah.
They're like getting way too drunk and just like making like it's like the most. I feel like the most embarrassing stories I ever witnessed, like in college and stuff, were the kids that like weren't
Yeah.
allowed to watch Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Like were super sheltered and everything like that.
Yeah. I I've done I think a big thing probably, we took them abroad. We've taken them to Peru a bunch of times. So those kind of experiences, I think, crack open their brains a lot. And because sometimes because your kids will be like, if you're their only source of information, then they're going to resist it naturally because
Yeah, right.
what else are they going to rebel against? But then, like my daughter this year, one of her friends is an exchange student from Spain. And this exchange student from Spain is like, the United States is fucked up. She's just like, it is fucked up in this country. And so it's like my
Yeah,
daughter's hearing it from somebody
yeah,
other than me. And I'm just like,
yeah.
awesome. Be
Like,
friends with the
Daddy,
foreign exchange student.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Daddy, are we colonial oppressors of the Southern
I know.
Hemisphere?
Oh no, pretty much like that. She's complaining about the way we teach math here, and I'm just like, yep, they kind of water down everything in the U.S. So, well, that's good.
Well, this has been a fun conversation, you guys. Thank you
Yeah,
so much
Yeah,
for joining us, Dash, and we would love to have you back on in the future.
absolutely.
It's
absolutely,
always fun
absolutely.
getting into our childhoods and speaking about things that
Oh,
aren't necessarily entertainment.
yeah. Well, that's
Yeah,
the whole point of film and entertainment at all. It
Yeah.
kind of and like the
Yeah, they
nostalgia
tap into
factor
your
I
life.
find.
It's yeah. I
Yeah.
I do realize more and more that the escapism umbrella is very broad, and just because it isn't entertainment doesn't mean that it isn't still escape of a sort. And
Oh yes.
so
No,
I
that
was
was perfect.
entertained.
thank you for fulfilling that function, you guys, and yeah, thank you everybody for joining. It has been a delight as always.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, see everybody.
Bye, guys.